Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 1. We're really close to the Game Week 1 deadline approaching and we need to lock in our squads, and that's what I'm going to try to do here today. Show you my current squad as it stands. It might still change up until the deadline, but this is a pretty certain squad for me right now. I have most of the players locked in, but there's a couple that I'm slightly worried about. But I'm going to talk you through it as well and talk you through which players I'm the most certain about, and then I'm going to end on the players that I'm not that certain about in my squad as well when I select the squad pretty shortly. But after I've done that, I'm going to go through the free hit team for Game Week 1. Technically, you can't really free hit, but I'm just going to show you the best players for Game Week 1 specifically, because that's what I do throughout the season on this YouTube channel. I make a free hit team every single week to show you which players are the best for the upcoming game week. Then finally, we're going to take a look at my future plans with my team. With the squad that I'm going to draft in front of you right now, I'm going to take a look at how that team looks for the first 6 game weeks, just to give you a general outline of how it is going to play out and how my tactics are for the first 6 game weeks of the season, basically. But yeah, let's go into the actual selection of the squad, which we're going to do right here. And again, I'm going to start with the player that I'm the most certain of having in my squad, someone that has never left my team. That is Mohamed Salah. Simple choice. Don't really have to talk too much about him. This is going to be a pretty quick routine here. If you want to see why I picked Salah, you can go through any of my other draft videos, really, where I talk in depth about these guys that I'm selecting first there. Again, Bowen as well has been in every single one of my drafts pretty much. He is there as well. Really nice price point, plays for West Ham, which is not a good thing, but he is someone that has produced a lot of points for the last 4 seasons. So he's amazing, and I'm also a West Ham fan, of course, so that is also something that helps for me. But yeah, also really want to have Morgan Rogers because he is back in training now. I'm pretty sure he's going to start. He's one of those players I think that will either start or he'll not come on at all. So that bodes well for me as well. And I think he's going to start against Newcastle and do pretty well for 7.0. I think he's tremendous value at that price point, really. I also think Cole Palmer for Chelsea is a pretty certain player in my team. He hasn't really left my team. I've always flirted with the idea of going without him, going with someone like Marmoush instead, going with someone a bit cheaper, but Chelsea's matches are just too good and Palmer is just too important for Chelsea, and they're going to try to push for the title contending spots this season, and Palmer is going to be the main guy behind that as well. So I think he's a pretty simple choice as well. Another pretty simple choice for me is the goalkeeper, which is not the Chelsea goalkeeper, because I don't really trust Sanchez. I don't really trust Chelsea in general, really, but especially defensively, it seems like they always concede that one goal. Sels was really trustworthy last season, and I also think what's underrated in terms of the new rules is not defensive contribution points, because that has been talked about a lot, but in terms of the bonus point system changing, you have goalkeepers now getting 1 extra BPS per save from shots inside the box, and that bodes well for Sels, who is someone that gets a lot of shots against him from inside the box, and they're also shots that he usually saves, because Nottingham Forest don't really concede that many goals because Sels is a really good goalkeeper. So really like him, really like the fixtures for Nottingham Forest as well. And I have some defenders that I really like as well in this team that I'm going to show you as well. First and foremost, Agbadou from Wolverhampton doesn't have the best fixtures to start the season, but he is a defensive contributions monster. He is also someone that is playing for Wolves, which is a pretty good defensive side. They haven't really lost any defensive players. They're actually gaining back Mosquera potentially, who's actually a pretty good player, who could strengthen their defense as well. And they've lost Aït-Nouri and Cunha, but they are more offensive players. So defensively, I still think they will be very much solid this season, really. So Agbadou is there. Also, actually, even more so than Agbadou, I want Diouf from West Ham. He's been so good in preseason, has looked really good offensively, and is just one of the players that I really, really like to have as well. I had Wan-Bissaka for the longest time, but Diouf seems like he has that extra bit of spice in terms of attacking output, even though I do think Wan-Bissaka could have a sneakily good Game Week 1, as he has done in the past. I feel like 2 times he's gotten 15 points. 1 time for Man United and 1 time for Crystal Palace in Game Week 1. So yeah, maybe there's some Game Week 1 juju around Herman Wan-Bissaka, because yeah, he is sort of tempting, but Diouf is the pick for me currently. Another pick that has been pretty clear for me, especially after his impressive display in the preseason, but I also had him picked in a squad before that preseason match. I'm talking about, of course, Tijani Reinders for Manchester City. 5.5 for a player that scored 10 goals in the Serie A last season. He's probably going to get a lot of more benefits from playing with a really good team in Manchester City. He's also someone that I expect to play pretty much every single game, especially now with Rodri out for the first few games of the season. Reinders is going to be really important for that Man City midfield. So he is someone that I'm really enjoy having in my squad for a really cheap price. Speaking of really cheap price and someone that I enjoy having in my squad, we have Joachim Andersen from Fulham as well. Another player like Agbadou, who is getting a lot of defensive contribution points and is someone that you can really trust to get those points regularly as well. On top of that, we have another goalkeeper as well in Dubravka. He is, again, pretty safe choice. He's 4.0. Makes a lot of sense to have him in your squad, in my opinion, because he is the only only playing goalkeeper at that price point in FPL, basically. So these are players that are pretty much certainties in my team, I feel like. The rest of these players are like slightly more controversial, I guess, starting with the first one, who is someone that a lot of people are going away from or not selecting initially. For me, that is Victor Gyökeres. He is someone that I still currently have in my squad. I actually selected him instead of Watkins, which is like the major thing here, because Watkins is the more popular Game Week 1 pick, but I feel like I can sort of have my Aston Villa cover with Rodgers for a cheaper price than Watkins, and I think Gyökeres, who is the same price as Watkins, has better fixtures in the first 4 with my tactic of free hitting in Game Week 3. That is my tactic. That is when Arsenal play against Liverpool, and that is when Watkins and Aston Villa play at home to Crystal Palace. So I can actually have Watkins that game week rather than Gyökeres and have the better Game Week 1, 2, and 4 fixtures in total, at least, for Gyökeres, especially that Leeds fixture in Game Week 2. I think is really looking nice for Gyökeres. Also, with his Arsenal stablemate in Gabriel Magalhaes in defense, he's also someone that I really like in FPL in general. And it's also like the player that I feel the best about among the 6.0 defenders. Defensive contribution points, not the biggest thing for Gabriel, but I think he also might benefit from now like referees being more attentive to people being held in the box, like shirt pulling in the box and stuff. I think Gabriel will be having more reins to score goals and be that menace, both in terms of scoring goals and getting clean sheets for Arsenal. So I think it's going to be a really good pick still. So like Gyökeres and Gabriel, especially with my tactic of free hitting in Game Week 3, is kind of differential-ish, I guess. Gabriel is in quite a bit of squads, but like not too many either. But yeah, my final striker is actually currently Jean-Philippe Mateta, because he has some decent fixtures to start this season as well. Like he is someone that plays Aston Villa, of course, away in Game Week 3, which is where I'm going to free hit, so I don't really have to worry about that game. And apart from that, he has decent fixtures, especially in Game Weeks 4 and 5. And I have a different thing planned to sell him potentially in Game Week 6, because I really want to get a player in Game Week 6, as I'll show you in the last section of this video, basically. But Game Week 5 and 6 against Burnley and Sunderland is amazing for Mateta, and I also get to avoid that Aston Villa away fixture as well. So all in all, I think he has pretty good fixtures. He has Chelsea away in the first game, which is not the easiest, but again, he can score. Chelsea can concede, hopefully, because I don't have any Chelsea defenders or defensive picks, and everyone seems to have Sanchez. So I'm going to hope for that, and I'm just a big fan of Mateta in general. I think he's a really fun player, and I think he's going to play every single minute to start the season. Finally, also, like this player could also probably have been higher, because I quite like him for 4.5 in King from Fulham, Josh King. It's not the striker from Norway who played in the Premier League back in the day. This is a new 18-year-old, really interesting talent who Fulham seem to be really high on in general. So quite like him. The only reason that I have him this low is because he is 4.5, of course. He's not going to play most game weeks. And also kind of slightly tempted by Dewsbury Hall as well at Everton for 5.0, just to upgrade him a little bit, because I do have that extra 0.5 in the bank. Because as you can see, I have 5.0 in the bank currently. And my final defender could be a 4 or 5.0 defender. But for me, I think the player that fits in the most in my team, the player that fits in the right game weeks perfectly, is a Crystal Palace player, again, in Chris Richards from Crystal Palace. He is also someone that is really good when it comes to defensive contribution points. And he has those really nice game weeks against Burnley and Sunderland in spots where I really need him to play as well, as you'll see when I go through my team in general. So he's the final player that leaves me 0.5 in the bank. I do have enough for an upgrade from King to Dewsbury Hall, for example, if I want to. I could upgrade Richards to a 5.0 defender as well. Neco Williams is the one that I'm eyeing the most, but I do have that cover from Sells in terms of the Nottingham Forest defense as well. So currently, I'm just leaning towards Richards. I also quite like having 0.5 in the bank, because that means you can just wait it out. You don't have to worry about price rises pricing you out of getting new players, basically. So I feel like this is a pretty flexible route for me going forward in FPL. I can get to most players that I want pretty easily and quickly with this draft as it currently stands. But something that I did today, which is something that I haven't done in a long time, is trying to fit in Haaland into the squad. And it was surprisingly like not that bad. Like it's not that difficult to do. I'll show you right now how I would do that. It's basically just Gabriel down to Esteve, so that is a pretty big downgrade. But again, I do have decent defenders, I think, in terms of like defensive contribution points and stuff like that. Also, obviously, the main thing is upgrading Gyökeres to Haaland, which is something that could be really good because Haaland could just explode as he does most seasons, really. And still 2.5 short or 2 million short even. If I go down to, or no, I'm sorry, I'm not short of anything, because if I go down to Marguerite here, I have 0.5 in the bank, which means that I can also upgrade King to a more sure starter in Dewsbury Hall. So that means like even though I lose Mateta to Guy and I lose Gabriel to Esteve, I can upgrade from King to Dewsbury Hall and have a pretty sure starter there as well, and make sure that I have at least one good bench player every single game week. So this team is looking pretty good as well. This is with Haaland, Palmer, and Salah, and also with Bowen, Rodgers, Reinders. A lot of the players that I want, Diouf, Anderson, Agbadou, like a lot of the players that I selected pretty highly in this draft are still in this draft. So it is quite tempting to go with this, but at the same time, I feel like if I go with Haaland initially, I'm going to have to stick it out and keep him from Game Week 6 as well, because that is when he has really good fixtures. That's when he has Burnley at home. So yeah, I think if I go with Haaland, I have to sort of look into this team, and I don't really have much flexibility here in case I want a good player. Like in case I want someone at like 8.5 in midfield, for example, what am I going to do? Sell Salah, sell Palmer early on? Nah, not really. I'm going to sell Haaland before he gets those really good fixtures. Not really either. So yeah, I do quite like this draft, but it's just a bit more cumbersome in terms of like changing up your team and stuff eventually. I do like the flexibility that I have with this other squad. So yeah, I'm likely going to stick to the initial squad that I selected. Potentially some small tweaks here and there, especially with the defenders and stuff. Gabriel, this is also something else that I've wondered about. Let's just put back the original squad first with Gyökeres and not Bowen and Mateta as well. This would be the squad that I have currently with 0.5 in the bank. But what I have thought about a little bit lately is just getting in, rather than Gabriel Magalhaes, I can go with Frimpong from Liverpool. I just have a good feeling about him, especially first game week against Bournemouth at home. I think Liverpool will just completely trash Bournemouth, and I think Frimpong will be super offensively minded in this game. Conor Bradley's also been injured lately, so I think Frimpong is pretty certain to start. We'll also get the league probably from the Liverpool game, because that's the first game of the game week. So I do quite like the Frimpong thing. If I get the leaks that Frimpong is starting for sure in Game Week 1, I'm going to be pretty tempted to do that, to just change from Frimpong to Gabriel. But I just really like Gabriel long-term in general. I think he's just a solid player. I don't know, he's more secure. I already have some like doubtful picks like Reinders, for example, Gyökeres, who don't really know if he's going to play all the time, or potentially like, I don't know, we don't really know how he's going to settle into the Premier League and stuff. I just feel like I have enough like risky-ish picks that I just want to keep it safe with Gabriel, and I'm just such a huge fan of Gabriel as well. And I said early on as well that for him, for 6.0, it seems like a steal, even though the defensive contribution points aren't the best for him. But I don't think really the defensive contribution points thing, I think it's going to be a bit like overblown in terms of the first few game weeks, because it is something that is more for the entirety of the season, something that you have to think about. It's not something that will make like wonders of your squad for the first 5 game weeks. You're not going to gain that many points. Like the most you can gain from the first 5 game weeks in terms of defensive contribution points is 10 points, which is nice, of course. But that's just like one good game week from Gabriel. He has 10 points by himself, scoring a goal and getting those 15 pointers and stuff. So yeah, you can gain a lot from defensive contribution points, but that's more over the long term, not really the short term. So yeah, I'm not really too worried about that with Gabriel or that many players in general. I think I'm going to make use of it eventually, and I do have a lot of 4.5 defenders that I think will be really good value with the defensive contribution points in mind. That's another thing you have to keep in mind, like Tarkowski and Murillo. These guys have 5.5 who are really good because of the defensive contribution points now. They're also really good because they got a lot of clean sheets and stuff last season. They got a lot of extra points, not just defensive contribution points. We saw some of the best performing defensive contribution points players last season were the likes of Bednarek, for example, who got like 100 points total and then like 120-ish, I think, with defensive contribution points. Yeah, that's not going to cut it really either. So yeah, I think defensive contribution points are interesting and fun, but I don't think they're like something you need to get straight away. You need to like be on it straight away because, yeah, like I said, the most points you're going to concede from the first like 5 game weeks is 10 points extra really from defensive contribution points. It's a long-term thing in general. But yeah, speaking of something that's not long-term, let's move to the next section of this video, which is going to be the quote-unquote free hit team for Game Week 1. I'll just show it to you straight away, and then I'll explain it later. But basically, you can't really free hit in Game Week 1 technically, but you can if you want to be super aggressive. I do not advise you to do this, but you can select the team for Game Week 1 only. Select this team that I'm suggesting to you right now, and then wildcard in Game Week 2 after you got a bit more information from what happened in Game Week 1. But I wouldn't really advise that. This is just an exercise that I do because I do the free hit teams every single game week for the season. It's something you can expect on this channel if you subscribe, which is a really handy thing to do. If you want to do that right now, that would be really great. So yeah, I'm going to give you a free hit team every single game week, and that is also the same for Game Week 1. I'm just going to show you which players I think are the best for this particular game week. And yeah, if you look at this team compared to the squad I just selected, I have 5 out of these 15 players. So there's actually quite a lot of players that will get a lot of points this first game week that I don't have. Some of them are really popular picks. Some of them are kind of more out there picks, I guess, in terms of Game Week 1 squads. But I think this team is going to be really damn good for Game Week 1 in general. So in goal, Pickford, I think against Leeds. Pickford is a really expensive goalkeeper for a reason now, because he's been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League the last 2 seasons. And I think this season is going to be a great one for Everton, and Leeds is a pretty weak team, especially offensively. So I think Pickford has good chances of getting clean sheets. Frimpong, like I just said previously, I think he's going to go bonkers. Just Liverpool in general against Bournemouth at home, I think that's a really good fixture that I want to target. Frimpong against Bournemouth at home, Salah the captain against Bournemouth at home, pretty simple captaincy choice for me this game week, and Ekitike against Bournemouth at home with Isak still waiting in the wings really to join Liverpool potentially, or potentially not as well. So Ekitike is someone that is a sneakily good Game Week 1 pick, but I get why you would go with someone like Wirtz instead, because you know he's going to play, he's not going to be replaced, so it makes sense. But for the Game Week 1 team, I think Ekitike has that slight edge over Wirtz in terms of potential points, because he is the striker, he's the one that will get the most chances and stuff to score goals. So yeah, I quite like him as well there. In defense, I've also doubled up with Spurs defenders in Pedro Porro and Romero. I think they are really good players to have for this team, because they play Burnley at home, which is one of the best fixtures for clean sheets this year as well. So yeah, Pedro Porro also shown his attacking threat. Romero actually showed his attacking threat as well in the Super Cup. So he's also someone that is really, really good for Game Week 1 especially, but also like long-term Spurs have pretty good fixtures. Yeah. Then we also have Diouf at West Ham. Diouf, who is playing Sunderland away. Great fixture. He has been in magnificent form in preseason, looking like a really good pick, and this game week is no different. He's a good long-term pick, or like medium-term pick as well. But also a really good Game Week 1 pick if you just want to have a squad for Game Week 1, or select the best possible squad here. If you're one of those guys who chase the highest score in each and every game week, then yeah, this is the team that I would go for, of course. In midfield, Salah, like I've just mentioned, Paul as the captain. Palmer, also pretty simple choice at home to Palace. Seems like a pretty good fixture. You don't want to go without Palmer when everyone has Palmer as well. So you got to sort of save it a little bit there, and Palace at home is a decent fixture for Chelsea, I think, in the first game week. And Ndiaye against Leeds, I think he's also a really good player for Game Week 1 in particular. I have been a bit down on Ndiaye previously in the preseason, and he's also sort of been losing popularity as well in drafts in general, but he could be really good. Like, I don't really mind him at all, especially with penalties, and now the news of people getting more, or like holding in the box is going to be more punished for defenders. So maybe there will be more penalties. Maybe in the Aya and these penalty takers like Salah and Palmer, for example, are as well, will be really vital. If that's the case, and then Ndiaye will be really good value at 6.5, especially against Leeds away. I think that's a really good fixture for him in general. Up front, Ekitike, I already talked about. Watkins is, of course, really good for Game Week 1 against Newcastle at home. We know he's been fit and raring to go in preseason, scoring every single game, it seems like. Wouldn't be surprised to see him score a goal against Newcastle either, even though I haven't gone for him. I've gone for Gyökeres instead, which is someone that I don't have in my Game Week 1 squad, but I think Game Week 2 and Game Week 4 is better for Gyökeres compared to Watkins. But again, I'm still a bit unsure about that. I might still go with Watkins Game Week 1 just for safety's sake. But I do think that Game Week 2 fixture for Gyökeres is super alluring. But Game Week 1, Watkins gets the edge against Newcastle at home, which is still a tough team. Newcastle are pretty good defensively still. They have a really settled defense. So it's not like an ideal pick. It's not my favorite forward. It's actually my third favorite forward out of these three. But Newcastle at home is still like okay for Aston Villa. I think it's going to be a fun game. It's usually a pretty high scoring game as well between Newcastle and Aston Villa. So we'll see what happens in that game in general. Also, Jared Bowen, he's my vice captain in this selection. Sunderland away, I think he has a really good chance of getting a lot of points in the first game week, improving his worth as someone that I really like to have in FPL in general. The bench, just really put in like all the cheapest possible players to have the best possible starting lineup. But I do have King against Brighton away. I think he's going to start that game, which is going to be really interesting to see at 4.5. Darlow is potentially going to start against Everton for Leeds with Lucas Perry coming back into fitness for them. We also have Goodmanson from Leeds as well for 4.0. I think he's a decent player there. Everton also one of the teams that struggled to score a little bit, so maybe Goodmanson will get a clean sheet there. And then finally Potts from West Ham, who is potentially likely to play at least a couple minutes for West Ham. Maybe even start against Sunderland away. He's not going to get many points in terms of attacking returns and stuff. Maybe he'll get defensive contribution points if he plays enough. But yeah, again, he's just like a throwaway bench pick, really. So that is the free hit team for Game Week 1. Going to go through the results of this free hit team in Game Week 1 after Game Week 1 is finished when we do the team selection video for Game Week 2. And that's how we're going to continue the season. We're going to present a new free hit team every single week. And the following week, we go through it and look and see how it did the past game week, basically. So yeah. You can expect that on this YouTube channel going forward this season pretty much. But yeah, speaking of going forward into the season, let's take a look at my squad and how it looks for the next few game weeks after Game Week 1 as well. Because it is, even though we have focused so much on Game Week 1 and we're now getting ready for FPL, the first game week, the first deadline, there is life after Game Week 1 as well. Something that we do somehow or sometimes, I guess, lose sight of is the fact that we actually need to pick players for longer than just Game Week 1. We do get the like proper squad selection where we have the first match, which is going to influence us into picking players with really good Game Week 1 fixtures. But after that as well, you have to have a plan for what's going forward. And with this team, I feel like I'm pretty well covered. This is my Game Week 1 squad, as you can see, that I selected. Pretty good players all around. I have Richards and Nagbodu and King on the bench. Like, none of them really have the best fixtures. Maybe I'll go with King there actually as like the first bench player, because I think he's going to start against Brighton and could be decent in that game. But anyways, I think my starting lineup is pretty damn good. I think also Gyökeres is going to play at least some part in his game. Rodgers might not play, but he's most likely going to play from the start as well. If not, I have King to come in there as like a makeshift guy there. Mateta, Chelsea away, not the ideal game, but I do think he's a pretty good player still, and he can score against anyone. He's shown that in the past really for Crystal Palace. So yeah, quite like Mateta. Let's move on to Game Week 2. And this is completely wrong because we don't have enough defenders. Richards should definitely be in the squad. That's somehow, like sometimes this site is not the best when it comes to that. FPL.team, which is the site I'm using. It is really handy, but sometimes it does mess up like that. Another decision here as well is the goalkeeper decision. Dubravka for Burnley and Sunderland at home, or Sells against Crystal Palace away. I think I want to maximize my points here with Dubravka and hope that Mateta scores against Nottingham Forest in this fixture basically. Also like Anderson, Man United at home, or Agbodu against Bournemouth away. Also kind of a tough decision. This is where I want to go with Gyökeres as captain. Could go Palmer as captain. I think I would actually go with one of these two. I think Newcastle will be pretty good defensively this season, so I think this is going to be a tough fixture for Salah. But I do think a lot of people will go for Salah because I think it's going to score a lot of goals in Game Week 1 as well. So that'll be interesting to see the captaincy decision in this game week, especially with Gyökeres as a potential option there in this game week for me. So that's Game Week 2. I've talked a lot about free hitting in Game Week 3 and why it is so nice to do. And yeah, I'm just going to show you my current like free hits Game Week 3 draft that I have right here. And I think it's looking pretty damn good. You have 3 Brentford players against Sunderland away, Kelleher against Sunderland away, Collins against Sunderland away. He's a defensive contributions type of guy as well, can score a goal as well. And also clean sheet against Sunderland is also on the cards. And Thiago, who is most likely going to be the striker at this point, but we'll see. Maybe he'll be replaced, or maybe they'll get another striker in. Maybe Wissa will be ready to play at this moment in time. Could always change around the squad with that information as well. Also have a couple Newcastle players against Leeds away. Hall and Elanga. Would also like to have Gordon, for example, but there's just too many good players to select here that I can't really go with Gordon. I could go with Gordon over Elanga, for example, or maybe over Cunha, potentially, and have like a Man United goalkeeper, potentially, as well. I could do that, or like a Man United and another Man United defender. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with Cunha as my pick there, because I do think he has quite high upside in general. So yeah, triple Man United against Burnley at home. Fantastic. Bruno Fernandes against Burnley at home. He's a really popular Game Week 1 pick now all of a sudden. Like, a lot of people are picking him. But mostly that is because you want him for Game Week 3. And that's the case with most of these players here that are interesting, that are not template picks. Like the Brentford players, you pick them in Game Week 1 because you want them in Game Week 3. And Man United players, you pick them in Game Week 1 because you want them in Game Week 3 mostly. And with this free hit in Game Week 3, you don't really need to worry about that. You can just leave them out, because all these teams, Newcastle, Man United, Brentford, they have really bad fixtures before and after Game Week 3. So you don't really want to pick them in any other game week except for this game week, which is where the free hit comes in handy. And you still get covered with Palmer against Fulham at home, Watkins against Palace at home, and you even get Haaland against Brighton away, because you can sell Salah in this game week when he plays Arsenal, and you can have Haaland against Brighton and actually have some Haaland coverage for the first few game weeks, which is not something a lot of people will have. So yeah, I think this team has a lot of high upside. You can also start Agbadou against Everton as well, potentially. He is also a really good player, like a nice bench player to have, just in case something goes wrong with any of these starters. Maybe Dorgu doesn't play in this game, for example. Then you have Agbadou to step in and be a really good player there as well. But yeah, you can mix and match with this team. Maybe Chelsea are looking super good and you want to triple up against Fulham, and you want to have Cucurella in defense and draw Pedro up front. You can do that by downgrading Watkins pretty easily. So there's a lot of different options there. If you want Gordon, maybe Isak is ready to play for Newcastle at this point. Maybe Newcastle have brought in a new striker that you want to play. There's a lot of things that can happen there. And Game Week 3 is also like an interesting game week. It's going to be like a tough game week to gauge in general if you don't have unlimited transfers, because it's right before the transfer deadline. And some new players might have come in. You get new information as well from the first two game weeks. Like, there's so many benefits to free hitting in Game Week 3, so I really advise you to do that. That's what I'm going to do myself, at least, and I've sort of built my draft around that as well, so I don't need to pick these players like Fernandes, for example, who I can just stay away from and get at a later point, I guess, in the season when he gets better matches, because his matches are pretty damn weak. Like, he starts with Arsenal in the first game, and then in the second game they have Fulham, I think, which is still a pretty tough match. Then Burnley is a really nice match, but then after that, they have Man City away, Chelsea at home, which is also not that good. Then they're good fixtures starting in Game Week 6 against Brentford and Sunderland. They still have Liverpool in Game Week 8 as well. So yeah, Bruno Fernandes, I think you can get him with in Game Week 3, which is where you want him, with a free hit. And I've made that point several times now in this video and in several other videos as well. So yeah, if you're not on free hit Game Week 3 by now, you're probably not going to. So let's just move on to the next game week in this FPL season, basically. So that's Game Week 4. The goalkeepers are not ideal. Sells against Arsenal away, Dubravka against Liverpool at home. That happens sometimes in FPL. Can't really do much about it. I wouldn't really make a goalkeeper transfer. I don't think that's wise. Maybe you can just hope for Sells getting a lot of save points potentially here. Game Week 4, I still think this is good for Arsenal. Nottingham Forest at home, especially for Gabriel. I think defensively that's going to be decent. Gyökeres might have a tougher time, so maybe you could sell Gyökeres at this point, especially if like Watkins is firing on all cylinders. Maybe you just do the Gyökeres to Watkins transfer. And if that's the case, if Watkins has been amazing, Gyökeres has not done much, didn't really perform that well against Leeds in Game Week 2, and he gets even another audition in Game Week 3 as well, where you don't need to use him, but he gets an audition to show that he's worth it or not. If Watkins is really good and he has gone up in price, I still have 0.5 in the bank with this draft. I can still easily go from Gyökeres to Watkins without worrying about what I have in the bank, really, or not having enough money to do that move. But most likely, ideally, I want to keep this team going. I think it is a pretty nice team. You also see Richards here against Sunderland at home. It's really nice. I don't quite like these fixtures. Spurs and Newcastle are difficult fixtures, I think. This is why I like Richards as my final defender as well. Anderson against Leeds, also really good. In general, the team is looking really nice. Salah against Burnley. Would wish to have more Liverpool players this game week. Florian Wirtz is someone that I am going to miss for the first few game weeks, sadly, or up until Game Week 13 most likely, because Liverpool don't have the best fixtures after Game Week 5. But yeah, just a singular Liverpool player, but that is Salah, the best one after all. But yeah, quite like this draft or this team in Game Week 4. Game Week 5 as well, I don't really need to do much transfers, but in Game Week 5 might be where I use my first transfer. I've saved up 3 transfers because you don't save up a transfer when you do a free hit, so that's why even after getting into Game Week 5, I only have 3 free transfers. That's one of the downsides to playing free hit in Game Week 3, that you don't get that extra transfer that early, but yeah, you just have to live with it, I guess. But at this moment in time, this is where I might sell Gyökeres, but he has pretty good fixtures after these 2 difficult games against City and Newcastle. He has really good fixtures up until Game Week 12, which is what I'm looking at because I want to do a Game Week 13 wildcard. So I might just keep him for these 2 games, tough games, but I also might sell him to get some even more funds. And that's probably what I'm likely to do. I might not even go to Watkins. I could always go to Watkins today because they have those amazing fixtures against Sunderland and Burnley here coming up. So I might do that actually. Still, but I also might save the money. But yeah, could easily do that. Gyökeres to Watkins, or I could keep Gyökeres for the long term, or I can switch back and forth, go to Watkins and then go back to Gyökeres again once Arsenal's fixtures get better. A lot of options there in general. I could also go down to Jørgen Strand Larsen. This is at the point where Wolves have really good fixtures that would leave up a lot of, or make up a lot of the funds, extra funds for my team as well. Just to check that out, let's just put Strand Larsen in there as well. That would give me some extra funds for the next few game weeks, because these game weeks are really good for Wolves in general. Leeds at home, Spurs away, it's still decent for attacking returns, I think, maybe. Brighton at home, Sunderland away, Burnley at home. That is really good fixtures all the way up until game week 9 there. And this also gives me more money in the bank to be more flexible in game week 6, which is where I'm going to do the big move of selling Salah. And I could get Fernandes, who has Brentford away, which is a nice fixture, and Sunderland at home. 2 really good fixtures there. And then I have a lot of money in the bank. I can upgrade Mateta, who is not the best for these game weeks. That's why I kind of like him, because he's really good for game week 4 and 5 when he has really easy opposition against Sunderland and Burnley, I think. Or Sunderland and West Ham, I should say. And then I can sell him here with the extra money that I have in the bank for Haaland, basically. So yeah, even if I do have Gyökeres here, I can't afford getting Fernandes, sadly. That's the thing. Obviously, I wouldn't have 3 transfers to use because I would have done the Gyökeres transfer, or not done the Gyökeres to Watkins transfer in game week 5, basically. But yeah, I wouldn't have enough money to get Fernandes there, but I could get Marmoush, for example. Could go even further down and get someone cheaper than that as well. Have a lot of flexibility here, but Marmoush, it would be nice to have a triple up on Man City against Burnley at home for these fixtures. And the reason why I want to go with Haaland here is the fact that they have 3 really nice fixtures here: Burnley at home, Brentford away, Everton at home. I think all those fixtures are really good for Haaland, especially in game week 6, and I want to attack that without using my free hit chip in that game week, because I want to use it in game week 3, basically. So yeah. But yeah, let's say that this is Strand Larsen. Maybe I have done that transfer. It seems like a pretty sensible transfer. I'd still have 2 million in the bank. I could even upgrade one of the defenders to another 6.0 type of defender. I could upgrade one of the midfielders. I could upgrade King, for example, to a 6.5 or a 6.0 defender. I could go from King to Rodri to triple up on the City players. This is something that I've looked at quite a lot this season. Would like to have Rodri because I can just play him every single game week, and he gets either defensive contribution points or attacking returns. He has been really, really good in that regard in general. With defensive contribution points in his Ballon d'Or season, he would have had 192 points in total, which is crazy for a 6.5 midfielder. In general, over the last 3 seasons that he's played fully, he's gotten 172 points on average, which is amazing for a 6.5 midfielder. So again, it's also sort of been my thing here with Rodrigo. Once he's back fully fit, because he's not fit to start the season, that's why I don't have him in my game week 1 squad, but once he's back fit, and if he's playing 90 minutes consecutively leading into game week 6, this is the type of transfer that I would want to do. Get Rodrigo in and have just a really solid squad. 3 City players in this match against Burnley without using the free hit, and still a pretty good team around them in general as well. And with these Wolves players with really good fixtures coming up after the Spurs fixture as well. So yeah, a lot of good things going forward with this team. I'm going to try to keep it up until game week 13 for the wildcard, because that is when both Liverpool and City assets will be really important to have, because they will have really good fixtures right going into when Salah's going to go out for African Cup of Nations, really. So yeah, those are basically my both short-term and long-term plans. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was actually a bit shorter than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be a 40, maybe 50-minute plus video, which I tend to do sometimes. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have enjoyed all my preseason content, and I hope you will continue to enjoy the content that I will make going forward in Fantasy Premier League this season as well. I'm going to try to make at least 4 videos every week because I have 4 like things that I do pretty much every single week. First one is the FPL eye test. I don't even need to show the fingers, but yeah, the first one is FPL eye test, where I go through what happened in this past game week, basically. Second one is the weekly wildcard draft, where I talk about my latest wildcard draft, basically, like where I select the 15 players that I think are the best players to have currently in FPL, which is going to change every week, and I'm going to compare it to the last game week before that as well. Then I'm going to have the FPL Scope podcast most weeks, at least, with Kevin as my co-host, going through his score, and also Kimo, my other former co-host at the FPL Scope podcast. I'm going to go through his team as well, and I'm also going to look at your best teams, like the best team from that game week in my mini league. So if you want to be the manager of the week and be featured in a video that I've made, you can join the FPL Scope mini league with the league code FNPQ83. And if you have the highest score in one particular game week, you'll get featured in either the podcast or on a video that I make as well. So yeah, that is an incentive to join the FPL Scope mini league, which I think is a really fun thing to do as well. And then also, finally, the fourth thing that I do is the team selection video, like I've done this time, but next time it's going to be a bit different, of course. I'm going to go through my score from the past game week, going to go through the free hits, the selection that I had. Sometimes I do the manager of the week in that video as well, if I need to. But I'm also going to go through the free hit team for the next coming game week, and also my own team and thoughts for the coming game week as well. That's something I do every single game week, pretty much. So yeah, you can look forward to that as well in my FPL content if you do subscribe and like this channel and all that stuff. And with all that out of the way, hope you have a tremendous game week 1 and tremendous season in general. I'm going to post my final team and my final like wildcard rankings, because I do like the weekly wildcard draft where I do the rankings from 1 through 15 in terms of which players are the most important to me or important players in my squad. So I'm going to post that on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, like right before the deadline, or right before the game. Yeah, right before the deadline, I should say, for game week 1, before the Liverpool against Bournemouth game. So yeah, exciting times ahead. I'm looking forward to this season. I'm looking forward to making content for you guys, and I hope you all enjoy it. So yeah, with that out of the way, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.